Welcome
Good to
back.
see you.
Nice to see you. So Ellen, Rob, David,
Bigger.
Maureen, Michael, Hope. Boy, we're almost all there. Daniel. Rob. Allison, I guess, same.
We're just waiting for her. She's can't find the link, so I'm just sending it to her now.
Okay. Jeez. I don't want to be in the sun anymore. Is Liam back yet?
No, I don't see him yet.
Okay. Allison's sort of there, eh?
She's here.
Okay, good. So should we wait for Liam or just carry on?
Here.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, you are there.
Just joined.
Okay, thank you. Did you get my message?
No,
Oh,
I will check right now.
thank you. All right, everybody. We're all ready to go, Hope?
We are.
Okay, thank you very much. And welcome everybody to the regular council meeting of Monday, July 29th, 2020. So we'll start the meeting and we'll have the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add? I know there's some late items. Oh,
Some things to pull, please, or is that later?
That's under the consent. So just for late items under 3.4, we received a number of letters from the public regarding the traffic and use of streets amendment bylaw.
Yeah.
Item 7.2, there's just a short staff report from myself regarding the community center referendum. And then item 7.5, and Jennifer Pierce is requesting that be removed or deferred until September 14th, just because of Daniel could speak to this more thoroughly, but my understanding there's a grant, or Leon can speak to it more thoroughly. I'm not 100% on the reasoning, but just deferring it to September meeting. And then one more item, it's agenda item under Islands Trust. It is item
17A.
17A, and we're just requesting that that get moved up under new business under the Islands Trust report.
Okay.
Requested that earlier, and I did not put it there, so it should be item 10.2.
okay. Okay, we'll move that around. Okay, anything else? That's it.
Yeah, I'd like to pull 3.
You, Ellen? Yeah,
We're not
Sorry?
on the consent agenda yet.
we're not quite to the consent agenda yet.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
so approval is agenda as amended. I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. And any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The agenda is
All right.
moved. Boy, having a hard time getting back there. And we'll move into public comments. Have you got anybody, Hope?
Sorry, we just missed the consent agenda there.
Okay, wait a minute. We got the approval of the agenda, right? And then public comments.
I think he's right. Hope.
Oh, you're right. Sorry, my bad. We had one on the list tonight, and she withdrew and then requested that I read her letter out loud.
Oh, okay.
I can do that now if that
That'd be
works.
nice. Thank you.
Bear with me. So it's from Trish Jacquet and it is dated July 6th.
Okay.
Goes like this. Dear Mayor and councillors, hope everyone is staying healthy and trying to return to normal. As we are in stage 3 and slowly returning back to the new normal, I see that the Bowen Island municipalities continue to spend unwarranted taxpayer dollars. I am urging councillors to place a freeze on hiring, disregard the 120-day short-term rental cap, and focus on what is important. There are approximately 28 municipality staff employees for an island population of approximately 4,000 people. Since COVID-19 started in March, how many employees did you lay off? The muni spent close to 230,000 taxpayer dollars on the Bowen Island Fire Department fiasco, not including whatever payout you gave the fire chief or Kathy Lalonde. As some businesses may not survive due to COVID-19, there may be less revenue next year. It does not mean you raise taxes in the future. It means you look at ways to reevaluate and restructure what the island necessities are. In fact, the only important people we need on this island are the fire department, ambulance. As we now need to find money for upgrades to the fire department, it is really simple. Time to downsize various departments in the municipality. Bowen Island is way too top heavy. I personally can save about 300,000 or more in salaries. That alone would pay for the firefighter dispute without taking money from the general account. This will also allow to create a surplus for the fire department upgrades. It may mean some employees double up their workload or prioritize what is necessary. Moving forward, I urge councillors to sit with staff and look at where we can save for future of Bowen Island. Now is the time. Take care, Trish Jacquet.
Thank you very much, Trish. Points well taken. And that's it? Public comments?
That is it, yes.
Okay, thanks, Hope. Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull off the consent agenda?
Gary, I'd like to pull 3.4 and 3.8, please.
3.4, 3.8 to David. Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? That's it?
3.4 covers it.
3.4. Okay, Michael, you're in there too. And that's it, eh? All right, those are duly noted. And the council approved the items as outlined in the July 27, 2020 consent agenda as amended. I'll move that.
Second.
Thanks, Sue Ellen. And all in favor?
Under section 11 of the agenda?
Okay, sorry, what?
Do we
Put it in
want?
section 11. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Section 11 it is. And all in favor? Aye. Okay. Delegations, we have none. Business arising from the minutes, BIM variance application 2016 to 2020. Daniel Martin, Manager of Planning and Development. Welcome, Daniel. I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'll just start my presentation here.
Okay.
Does that work? Can you see it?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
perfect.
Okay, so this came out of a discussion from the last council meeting wanting to look at an overview of variances issued by the municipality from 2016 to 2020. So what the report first looks at is in the Local Government Act, there's two venues for a local government to issue variances. So it can be through a development variance permit, which is what we typically do on Bowen, or it can be through a board of variance. So a development variance permit or a DVP can vary zoning bylaw regulations as well as subdivision regulations. It can be any variance to the zoning bylaw as long as it does not vary use or density. It has a couple provisions that notice to neighbors is prescribed, and it goes to 2 council meetings. So the first time we bring it for an introduction, and then we come back after notice has been given for consideration by council. There is an alternate method set up in the Local Government Act, which can be confusing and a little duplicating, but the board of variance. So a board of variance can vary the siting, size, and dimension of buildings. So it's similar to a DVP, but it can't vary some things, like, for example, it can't vary a parking regulation. It can only consider variances that are minor and that would cause undue hardship. So it's different than a DVP. So DVP council doesn't need to find a hardship and doesn't need to find that it be minor, but a board specifically has to say that it's a minor variance and that it causes undue hardship. And they must consider 6 factors, which have to do with development of the site, impact on the environment, and the intent of the bylaw. Notice is given just to adjacent neighbors, so it's a lesser requirement. It's not within 100 meters, but it's just those neighbors that are immediately adjacent. And the board holds a single hearing to determine their variance. So for a board of variance, staff receive the application, and when the application is complete, staff issue notice to neighbors after a hearing date has been set, and it goes to the hearing of the board. So next, when I looked at the variances that have been considered, or variances that have been applied for in the municipality, I saw we had 36 approved variances in that time frame. 6 were rejected, 3 were withdrawn, and at that time when I did it on Monday, we had 3 active applications as well. I know most of the ones that were rejected were specifically cases where people had built in advance, got caught, and had asked for the variance and were rejected. And of the 3 withdrawn, I believe at least one of them was withdrawn after staff indicated they could not support the application. In the same time frame, we've had 2 board of variance applications made, one of which was deferred after a hearing by the board, looking for more information, and one was approved. So in my report, I go through not knowing exactly what council was looking for, but what are some council options if the sort of the gist I was hearing from this discussion was, how does council be consistent with variances, but also potentially spend less time on variance applications? So one option identified is we could work to encourage more minor variances to be submitted to the board of variance instead of as DVPs. And so I recommend this could be done through increasing fees for DVPs, even just a nominal rate to sort of tell people that this is going to be a cheaper route is to go the board of variance route. And it can be better advertising the board of variance as an option and highlighting it as a route. So in the report, I note that many people on Bowen go for the DVP because it's perceived as a faster process because they know that council meets regularly. They've seen other variances go forward and it's sort of the clearer route through, but potentially on Bowen, maybe an option would be advertising the board of variance, having time set up in advance that we know we're going to be handling it and showing that can be a faster option for people. The downside of encouraging more board of variances is sort of council's lack of control over the variance process. And so that's up for council discussion, how involved they want to be with the variance applications. The other option I look at is we could spend less time discussing DVPs. So this would be placing more applications on the consent agenda, either for introduction or consideration for ones that, for example, they don't receive any negative letters, they could go on the consent agenda. This wouldn't free up much staff time, but it would save the council meeting time. And then finally, I say council through policy or action can make clear statements of the type of variances that they would not view favorably. So this could even just be councils as discussing certain variances, saying that there's certain ones that they would prefer not to see come forward. People who are considering variances do watch it very closely and can see past applications that seem similar to theirs and how council has received them. So if council doesn't want to see certain types of variances, they can make that clear and people will react accordingly. So that was the short presentation I put forward just to go through my report, and then I'm open for any questions from council at this time, and I'll stop the sharing.
Okay, I'll open it up. Do we have anybody here? Yes, we have Allison.
Okay, unmute myself here. So Daniel, if I understand it, it's up to the applicant to choose whether they want a board of variance or a council to hear their DVP?
Yes, so the option is there for the applicant. And so even if staff say, well, I think this seems like a board of variance, they're still, have the option to apply for a variance or to the board.
Okay, and my understanding is with a council decision for a DVP, especially if you're dealing with setbacks, it is registered on title. And because we've had some problems in the past where somebody said, oh, I got a DVP, but I can't find the paperwork. So I mean, if I were applying for a setback DVP, I would want to have it on title so any future owners would know and so forth. That and most of our DVPs are for setbacks, correct?
They're mostly for setbacks. Yeah, so the board of variance decision is recorded in the building file. And then I believe it's the Local Government Act requires that governments keep a copy that's available of variances that are issued.
Yeah, but that's a lot harder to find and know about than going and searching a title.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Want me to cut it?
and then I guess my whole question is the whole question of what is minor and what is hardship. But
Yeah, and then Allison, I mean, on that, there are sort of guides that try to outline it, but ultimately it comes down to the board decision. And so I think I note in the report, but I noticed, you know, a lot of the times the legal framework of this in terms of court cases challenging ends up being the municipality challenging their board of variance about a decision about what is minor and what is a hardship.
yeah, okay. And then I guess my sort of last comment has to do with us setting guidelines. I mean, I can see setting guidelines that, you know, a bay window overhang or a deck overhang of 2 feet or something. But if you're talking about a house or setbacks, I mean, the topography on Bowen is you know, it's not Richmond we're dealing with. They're not nice and flat cookie cutter lots. So you know, you have to go through. Would you rather have a variance for a setback or somebody blast the hell out of a lot? That's my comments.
Okay, good comments. Sue Ellen?
Thank you. Yeah, my question for the planner is, would the Board of Variance be able, does height of a building fit into what the Board of Variance can look at?
They can, so similar to a DVP, they can't vary density. So there has been cases where an increase in height can be an increase in density. For the most part, though, it's not. And so if it's a minor, again, it has to be a minor variance and it has to be because of a hardship.
Okay. No, I'm just thinking for some people, having a neighbor or an adjacent house put up another story wouldn't seem minor. So my next question is, if an application to the Board of Variance went ahead, I'm wondering about the level of visibility for others in the neighborhood. If it's only the immediately adjacent properties that get a notice, or then I'm thinking about the level of consultation really, or awareness in the community. So if a Board of Variance application is made, how do others on Bowen find out?
We would do the same. We would place it in the island page, and we would, so the one that we did most, like maybe a year or two ago, in the island page in our notice process, is just that in the Local Government Act, it's adjacent as opposed to 100 meters. It's less people get the letter in the mail, but we would do the other steps the same.
You would still do the other stuff. Okay, thank you. That's my questions.
Okay, thanks, Sue Ellen. And Maureen?
Thank you, Gary, and thank you, Daniel, for pulling this together. I found it very informative. One of the most important points that you make is in terms of council decisions, because on the face of it, it looks like we approve everything that comes before us, more or less. And the point that you make that the numbers don't mean that every application was accepted as originally submitted. In some cases, staff worked with the applicant to reduce the requested application prior to presenting to council. And in other cases, the variance was reduced based on initial council feedback. So it seems to me that there is a process there that is actually working probably to our advantage and to the advantage of the applicant, in that something workable is coming out of that process. I'm still interested in the notion of streamlining, but I'm not sure I'm ready to make a decision one way or the other tonight.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. David?
Thanks, Gary, and thank you, Daniel. Good report. I think, you know, we brought this up because of council spending a lot of time on this, but realized through your report that actually staff spends a lot of time on it, and some of your suggestions don't help that at all, which is kind of unfortunate. But as Maureen says, you know, it shows us that there has been a good process and it's been a useful process. So I'm pleased about that. And but I also agree with Allison's point that there are a lot of, you know, we've got strange topography, and a lot of the island was settled at times when lines really weren't respected a heck of a lot. And so, you know, these do come up a lot. And so I'm comfortable with your ideas of 2 and 4. So 2 meaning trying to encourage the board approach when it's really minor. And, you know, your answer to Sue Ellen's question that it would, you know, there would be public information about it. I found that was comforting. And then the number 4 is if nobody, you know, you've got 2 options to put it on the consent agenda. And unfortunately, this doesn't help staff, Daniel, I pointed out, but it would, you know, reduce staff time in a council meeting perhaps, is have on the consent agenda, either the first one, the information one, or the second one, the kind of the result, if there's no public concern. So I'm comfortable with moving forward on both of those if other councillors agree. But I am pleased with this report and realize that there is a process that is working. Thank you. So that's it for me, guys.
Okay, thanks, David. Anybody else? Yeah, my knowledge of the Board of Variance is that they are very tough, and the hardship component is a lot of our DVPs would not go through the Board of Variance because they don't really prove hardship. They prove convenience and maybe putting something the way it should be, but they don't actually prove hardship. So, and hardship is a big factor for the Board of Variance. So I don't, for most of our DVPs, I don't think they pass through I don't think they get through the Board of Variance. How many, we've got a pretty good process in place, Daniel, when the planners actually recommend a development variance permit. They've done their homework, they've worked with the proponent and tried to give council something that they can work with, and otherwise they wouldn't recommend it. How many don't get recommended, or do the people just go away? Is there any thought of that? What would your thoughts be on that, Daniel?
I mean, we do have conversations with applicants who are sort of weighing their options, and they're saying, well, I could do this needs a variance, or I could do this.
Yeah.
And generally sort of our preference is that they don't need to get a variance. Obviously, you know, it's their option. Some sites need it, but we're trying to encourage them to think of ways, you know, to not need a variance. And in some cases, when the variance being sought is something, you know, that's maybe more peripheral, we give stronger feedback in terms of, it seems like you have an alternate that's not needing a variance. So like, I think a couple of weeks ago, somebody was asking about a swimming pool in the setback to the sea. And I was saying, well, that doesn't seem like something that council would be as interested in. It's not like building your house and there's nowhere else to build it. You know, maybe you don't need the swimming pool. Yeah. Exactly.
I think we have a pretty good system in place. It's a little bit onerous. You'd have to go through, staff would have to go through the DVP process anyway. I don't think there's any way to expedite it. I mean, a lot of the ones we've had lately, if they're extensions into the setbacks, the house is already in that setback. So in those cases, maybe something like that could go through the consent agenda, but I fear that we'd probably, well, maybe not, maybe we wouldn't pull it, but I fear we'd probably pull it anyway. Anyway, any further discussion on this? And is anybody concerned about the variance permit increase fee? I'm certainly not. Sue Ellen?
So you're on mute.
I was going to bring that up too, because I noticed the line in the report that this would, raising the fee, even this small amount, would help to better recoup costs of staff time. And I'm interested in that because I don't want the general taxpayer to be paying for improvements to individual property owners. And so if that's the case, that $900 would better reflect the actual time in staff costs, stock costs and staff time, then I'm in favor of it, as well as because it might make better use of our Board of Variance who volunteer and are standing by and they can do minor things as well as hardship, correct? Yeah, so I think it's a better use of our volunteer resources as well. So I'm in favor of the raising the 900.
Okay, so the recommendation.
Gary, I've got my hand up.
Okay, Allison, I got you. Go ahead.
Just a clarification, I think the Board of Variance, it has to be minor and cause hardship, correct?
Ah,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now
Yeah.
I get it.
yeah.
No, there's definitely a hardship component.
There's two parts to this resolution, and I guess
Yeah.
I'm wanting to ask Daniel about the second part. Off the top, Daniel, do you think there's anything in the bylaw to be changed? I had a look and I couldn't see anything.
I mean, I looked and I saw the Local Government Act references were out.
But that's housekeeping.
Yeah, and then I hadn't looked in detail in it, and I thought, oh, if I'm going to encourage, multiple applications a year, I would want to double check it.
Okay, so you think it's worth spending your time to do that second part of the resolution, or is it something that can wait?
I think it's worth doing, but I don't anticipate rewriting the bylaw.
Okay, so just a matter of spending a little time having a look at it and maybe a couple of housekeeping things.
Yeah.
Okay, so not a huge time sink.
No.
All right, then on that basis, I'll move the recommendation as written that council direct staff to amend bylaw number 484, 2019 to increase the fee for a development variance permit to $900, and that council direct staff to review bylaw number 274, 2010 and bring to staff a report outlining any necessary revisions to that bylaw.
Bring to
Yes,
council.
second.
Thanks, Allison. Second to Michael. Any further discussion? Okay, I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, I think we got them all. Thank you very much. 5.2 is development variance permit DVP 132 2019 at 1742 Bowen Bay Road. MP Light Body Limited, Mike Light Body, and it's over to Jennifer Pierce, Planner 1. Jennifer, it's to you. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm just setting up my screen. One moment, please. Okay, so this is, as Mayor said, DVP 13-2019 at 1742 Bowen Bay Road. It was introduced to council approximately a month ago, and the location is on the western side of the island, right next to the Bowen Bay Beach there. And here's the site. And we have a development variance permit and also a development permit going through kind of in parallel. So the existing site has a home with a deck on it shown in yellow, a shed, and another deck closer to the water, which will all be demolished, and in their place will be built a deck that is further south and a new residence in the same footprint with a deck in a similar footprint, a new garage, and the shed will be gone. So there was a site visit conducted by council on July 9th, where we took a look around and got a bit more information on the relationship between the deck and the beach, as well as the conditions of the house and its relationship to the neighbors. We've also since had 11 letters of support submitted for this project from various neighbors, and we're now considering that the recommendation that council issue development variance permit DVP 13-2019, which would vary the setback from the sea to 7.5 meters and the side setback to 1.8 meters to fulfill the proposed work.
All right, that's it, Jennifer?
Yeah, it was the quick version.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's awesome. And so I think how many people got down there for the site visit? It became quite apparent on the site visit that things look pretty good there. I'm gonna go to Sue Ellen fast first. Sue Ellen?
I couldn't make the scheduled site visit, but I was down there recently, and
Okay.
So I took a look around. My question is, can you just remind me, Jennifer, what is the normal setback to the sea?
So it does vary a bit around the island, but typically it is 30 meters. Now, in this case, you see it listed as 16.06 meters, and that's because there's a measure in the bylaw that allows you to take the distance of a neighboring house on either side and take the average. So in this case, the house to the south is quite close, and then to the north, there are no houses, so we assume the 30 meters.
Gotcha. Thank you very much. I think that was my main. Oh, and has our manager, or what's she called, Bonny Brokenshire, has she been involved in the looking at the creek and the setback to the sea and that kind of thing?
Yes. So in the internal references that we do for the development variance permit and the development permit, she's been heavily involved, as well as the province because of the wrapper requirements for the development permit.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't see a check mark in the Parks and Environment box, so I thought I would check about that. Thank you. That's my questions.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. Allison.
I'm just wanting to speak. We got a letter recently, and I think they have misread the application.
Yeah.
When you look at deck and dock, look very similar, and I think they thought for some reason there was a dock being permitted out of all of this, but we're actually ahead of the game in that the dock that is there hanging over Bowen Bay Beach is disappearing. So I think it makes Bowen Bay Beach a better, just better for the users of Bowen Bay Beach than what's there now. So I didn't know what the process would be to responding to that person that seemed to have misinformation.
So I did respond to that person via email, clarifying the location and the scope of the work, and then also asked them if they would like to include their comment as part of the public record with the other public comments. And with the clarification, they declined that offer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Rob.
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer, for taking us to the site. I mean, I think the only concern I originally had was the view from that deck onto the beach and if that would be increased by this development. And it actually looks like the opposite may happen, that the deck will actually be set back. So I'm quite comfortable. And Gary, I don't know, do you want me to move it? Is there anybody else waiting? And I'll move it along.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll move the motion that council issue development permit DVP 13/2019 for the variance of the setback from the sea to 7.5 and that the site setback to 1.8 meters for 1742 Bowen Bay Road, legally described as Lot 1, DL 1545, Plan BC 3834, PID 25 601 814. So I'll move that.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And further discussion? I think it's a win-win for the municipality. We get rid of that deck that's overhanging the beach. We get the shed back on his property. And I think it's a real good cleanup act for the municipality. So any further discussion? Ask a question, all in favor? Aye.
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 Right.
Thank you. Okay. I just got to go back to my agenda here. Okay, so the bylaws, the official community plan amenity bylaw number 498 2019 and land use bylaw amendment bylaw number 499 2019, RZ 03 2019 and OCP 02 2019. 720 Gardner Lane. Daniel Martin, back to you, Manager of Planning and Development. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Gary. Okay. So I have before you, as Gary has said, 720 Gardner Lane, so the bylaw 498 and 499. This has to do with 720 Gardner Lane, which is located in the middle of the island, backing onto Mount Gardner. And just to refresh council's memory, this is the rezoning proposal to place a 4-hectare portion into a rural commercial 2 retreat center zone to expand an existing bed and breakfast into a retreat center. It would provide a 2-hectare park dedication, and then it would reduce the allowable size of the 2 remaining residential or potential residential lots to be 1 hectare each in size. So just the update, we held a public hearing for this application July 14th, and 3 speakers participated in that public hearing, all supporting the proposal. So the staff recommendation is that council give third reading to bylaw number 498 and 499, and that to fulfill our obligations for our letters patent, to refer bylaw 498 to amend the official community plan to the Islands Trust for approval.
All right, who's on the list? You've had lots of time on this one.
I'm happy to move the,
Yeah,
move it then.
okay.
Gary, I'll go back and read that. That bylaw number 498, 2019, cited as Bowen Island Official Community Plan Amendment, bylaw number 498, 2019, be read a third time. And the bylaw number 499, 2019, cited as Bowen Island Land Use Bylaw Amendment, bylaw number 499, 2019, be read a third time. And the council refer bylaw number 498, 2019 to the Islands Trust for approval.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Allison. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. How we doing there? Hope good?
Unanimous.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Staff reports, Bowen Island Community Center summary report. Shauna Jennings, Manager of Recreation and Community Services. Shauna.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm gonna share my screen here, and Sam Collins is here with us as well.
Oh, good. Hi, Sam.
Evening, everyone.
Oh, hang on, we're having some technical difficulties here. Just gonna
That's
try
not
that
fair.
again. That's not fair.
Oh, it's coming.
Okay.
There you go.
There it is.
So we are here tonight to talk about the community center. Just give you a quick update of where we're at. Just going back to some recent accomplishments. As you all know, at our last council meeting, we signed a grant contract, received and signed for the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Grant program, in which we've received $7.96 million for the community center project. A climate lens for the project was completed in February. That was part of the federal government grant requirements. So that has been completed. First Nations engagement with the Squamish Band is ongoing. We have reached out, BIM staff has made some attempts to contact the Squamish Nation. Just really wanted to acknowledge that we know that local and Indigenous governments are currently busy with the response to COVID and the pandemic. We are still awaiting to hear back from the Squamish Nation. So we'll be ongoing with those attempts to continue to engage with them. And some transitions of staff with BIM and with the Hearth. So we've just been working, the project team has been working with Liam Edwards and Jamie Sheffer from the Hearth, just to make sure everybody is up to speed on the project. And that is what we've been doing recently in the project here. Moving on to the upcoming schedule. As you can see, we have formed a project management team and a communications team. And as you can see here, we have some open houses coming up before the referendum. The referendum date was set for September 12th, and that was at the last council meeting. We currently are looking at an open house, probably a virtual open house with a bit of a presentation followed by some question and answer. There will be a panel of people who are available to answer questions. And we're looking at a weekday evening for that on August 19th. Also looking at a Saturday, possibly an in-person open house on August 29th. And that would, of course, be socially distanced with boards of information, as well as having people on hand to be able to answer questions. We're also looking at some virtual tools currently to have available after the August 19th open house. There would be a virtual walkthrough of the project and of the facility available on YouTube through the BIM website, and that is something that would be available to the public to view at their leisure. And we'll also have a bit of a presentation just set up in council chambers during August, so that we've got some options for people to come in and take a look at the information boards that we've had created for the project. Referendum we've set, as you know, for September 12th. And assuming that that is successful, we will be able to secure the rest of the funding for the project and move towards releasing the tender, which will close in November, and looking to begin construction in February of 2021. We've given ourselves for the project 18 months to complete the construction, transitioning to Operation Soft Start in December 2022, and possibly having our first concert or something early 2023. So hopefully you'll all be there to enjoy that.
And you.
And me. So budget-wise here, we were working out still with the budget of $14.5 million. As you can see here, there has been a payments to date of $918,300, and that is has brought us through all of the design work, project management, and right up to pretty close to tender drawings for the project. There's a healthy contingency there. Construction costs have been estimated. And then if we take a look at the financial plan and the budget, as you know, we've talked about this $2 million that BIM would borrow, assuming that the referendum is successful. So debt with service payments equal to the rents that we currently pay. So BIM currently pays rent, and those service payments would equal being able to borrow up to $2 million without impacting taxes. Funding that we had in municipal reserves for this project was at 1.2. Investing in Canada, the infrastructure grant, we had budgeted originally 7.3. We were awarded 7.96, so we are a little bit more than we had budgeted for there. We are still looking at fundraising targets of 3.3 million, 3.34 million there. So we have successfully fundraised 1.3 to this state, and we would be relaunching that fundraising campaign. The project has hired Jacqueline Massey as the fundraising coordinator to work on fundraising to move forward with that. And we will be looking to relaunch that. And again, just to reiterate that only the amount borrowed, will only borrow as much as we need to, up to the $4 million that will be asked for in the referendum in order to secure all the funding for the project. Operational planning. So we have been doing some operations planning with staff. We've looked at the operations budget review, reviewing and developing that. So that has been reviewed recently and will be a part of the business plan, which is also on final review this week. That'll be presented to the steering committee for recommendation to council. The MOU for governance and programming is also ready to be recommended to the steering committee for one last look, and then recommended to council. The MOU is between BIM and the Hearth, and it is around how the governance and programming will happen in the facility once we're all complete. And recognizing that the Hearth is a big stakeholder in this facility and will be helping to have program with arts and cultural programming for that facility. A joint management committee will also be developed, and that will be made up of key stakeholders and community members to help manage the facility and how the programming is managed through there. And we also have an updated floor plan here. That's been something that people have been asking for. Basically, the floor plan has not changed that much, other than there has been some updates in the municipal office portion, and that is a result of staff feedback and input, looking at efficient service to the public. And also just want to mention here that we have taken a look at this plan from a strategies to deal with COVID considerations, so that that's something that the design team has started to look at, and we will be implementing a couple of changes just to ensure that we are conscious that we may be living with COVID for quite a while. And lastly, just looking at what our next steps are here. So as mentioned, we would be, the project would be relaunching the fundraising campaign in light of having received the grant from the government. Ensure that there's a lot of information out for the public so that we can have an informed decision at the referendum. We're preparing for that referendum now as well. Preparing construction tender planning, so construction and tender documents are being prepared, and working groups have been struck from the steering committee, working on the finance and fundraising, communications, and operations. So looking ahead to how the facility operates once we're open in 2022, I think that.
Yeah.
That's everything we have here. We can open it up to questions.
Yeah, has anybody got any questions here? Let's see.
Yes, Gary, if I may.
Okay, Rob's on the list first, and then we'll go to you, Michael. Rob?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Shauna, for that update. I work for North Van, and we're right now getting ready to move into our fitness center. So I'm glad you brought up the COVID aspect of it, and who knows how long that will be around for. Just curious, council chambers, for instance, the meeting room seems like that's going to be an issue in the building moving forward. Any thoughts of maybe using, for instance, the bigger theater space for council meetings, and any other areas like the fitness center? Do you think the square footage is going to work there? Just maybe some more comments on that, because I know, the design is pre-COVID, but things have changed a lot, especially in community centers. So any more details you can give us on some areas that we may need to focus on?
Certainly. So just to say that BIM will own and operate the buildings. If we would like to have council meetings in the large multi-purpose room, which we're also is known as the performance space, performance arts and community space, we could certainly book the council meetings into that space if that was necessary due to COVID. Again, we may also be still in the format that we're in, and may be able to space out council members within the actual conference room, but still have the public attend just as they do now, watching on YouTube or joining us on Zoom. In terms of the fitness studio and the weight room, the fitness studio does open to the outside, which is a benefit just in having that clean air being able to come in. The weight room is almost 3 times the size of the current weight room that we have now at the school. So currently we are having people book their time. I believe that's a pretty standard practice across municipalities now with COVID. And we just limit the number of people who are able to use the space at a time. And that would be the same. We'll look at how other facilities are running their fitness studios and their weight rooms and certainly adopt some of those best practices.
Okay, thanks, Shauna.
Okay, Maureen?
Thank you. Sorry, the mute button was not working properly. Shauna, a couple of questions regarding timing. You mentioned that the business plan would be reviewed in a week or so by the steering committee and then come to council. Will it be coming to council at the end of August, the August 27th meeting, prior to the referendum?
It should be ready for that, and we can talk about getting that on the agenda. We are ready to just about ready to circulate that to the steering committee for comment and recommendations.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that I think it could be a factor in whether people support or don't support the project. My second question has to do with the memorandum of understanding with the Arts Council, with the Hearth. I recall quite some time ago seeing a draft of an MOU and haven't heard anything as a council member since then. I again would expect that the Hearth would be more comfortable going into a referendum if they were able to have their MOU in hand and tell their membership and their supporters that that was in place. Is that a possibility?
Yes, and we have been in conversation with the Hearth around that point exactly, and they have let staff know that they would appreciate having that MOU signed. So it is ready to be a final review by the steering committee, and my understanding is that the Hearth board has reviewed the final draft as well. So that will be something that the steering committee will be able to recommend to council, and we can look at that late August council meeting as well for that document.
That would be great. I think that would give a lot of comfort to some folks on Island. Second to last question, the First Nations engagement that is in progress. Why is there First Nations engagement? Is it because it's a conditional grant?
I think in general, the municipalities and the First Nations are beginning to create those relationships and those working relationships. And I know that BIM is engaged in that process on a larger scale, not just specific to this project. Having said that, one of the federal requirements of the grant was that there was some engagement to see around any land use titles that may come up, or just to see if they had any comments around the project, and possibly we would engage them in potentially some public art for the project, or some sort of engagement that would involve them if they were interested. So that engagement is ongoing, and we've been doing that. Liam has taken that on after Dennis Back had originally begun that process back in March. It was all just kind of starting to get going when the pandemic kind of took everything on a right turn. And so as I said, we are still engaging in that process with the Squamish Nation, and have not been successful in reaching them just yet.
Okay, I think it's good for members of the public to be aware that this is going on, and I think that they would generally be supportive of it. So I'm glad to hear that that is part of all of this. And you answered my last question in passing, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Allison.
Oh, gotta remember what I could. It says I'm muted. There we go. The borrowing, we had a question at the Community Economic Development Committee. Maybe Sam, I don't know who answering this one. It's the 30-year term we're using for the borrowing numbers for the referendum.
Yes, that was my understanding from Raj. It was a 30-year term.
That's what I told everybody. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you. Oh, and the other thing I want to add is at the Community Economic Development Committee this morning, we passed a unanimous resolution to support the community center project and ask that all of Bowen Island vote in favor of the referendum.
Thank you, Alison.
Yeah. Shauna?
Yes.
Oh, Sue Ellen first. Michael, sorry.
Okay.
Going down the list here. Sue Ellen.
Thank you. Yes, I just have a comment that I'm really excited to see this come forward. I'm really looking forward to more of a public democracy sort of civic presence down in the Cove, where we're more, where municipal staff and council is more accessible to everybody, and where we can see everybody can participate more in public life, perhaps through that visibility and the nearness. And I think it's also good multi-use of space and all the good things. So I'm excited to hear it. I just have a quick question, and that is maybe it's past the time, I don't know, but looking ahead to a climate action future, is the building, I don't think we've got solar panels and things set up for it now, but perhaps in the future, is the building solar panel ready? Can it be adapted to take on new climate action kinds of things? Do you know?
My understanding is that yes, it is. The building did go through an energy modeling model, and I believe the infrastructure within the building is able to accept some solar panels and other things down the road.
Good. Okay, thank you.
All right, Michael.
Sean, a quick thing. Thank you, by the way, for organising. I'm just looking at the our island place in the undercurrent. Shauna, is there a possibility of working in a one sentence just to explain, because it's easily explainable, what tax neutral long-term debt is? Because there are a lot of people who are not sure. Is there just a simple way of inserting something in just to explain to people what that is? Because I think that will save a lot of questions if you could somehow incorporate it into your work that you've done. So frankly, it's most attractive, but anything to save unnecessary questions.
Sure, yes, and we could put an FAQ on the project website to explain that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Maureen, back to you.
It's on the same point, just communications about the project. So there are quite a few questions from some members of the community. It's to be expected. Will Sophie be the sole person working on communications for this, or how's the communications side of things going to work? I know you've itemized it as you know, operations, communications, but how do you anticipate communications working between now and the referendum?
So Sophie is the staff communications coordinator for BIM. So yes, she will be spearheading much of that communication. We do have a communications working group made up of Sophie, myself, David Hawking, and Jamie Sheffer from the Hearth. And we will be working with Sophie on making sure the communication is consistent and accurate. Also, the Hearth has brought Jacqueline Massey back on to assist with the communications for the project from the Hearth. So there is another avenue for people to receive that information. And we are updating websites and being active on social media. But so there is a team of us working on the communications to ensure that we get that out. There will be a mail drop as well to all the Bowen addresses, and I think just look for more things in the paper, social media, and there is an option on the community center website to subscribe to the newsletter. That will be a weekly way to get updates on the project and questions answered. and we are working hard to identify those questions. It helps us a lot if people use the contact form on the Our Island Place website as well, so that we can respond directly to emails that come in. And then we can also create an FAQ just to make sure that other people who also have that question are able to get the answer.
Has there been any consideration of using the engagement tool that was trialed during the consultation?
Sorry, can't hear you, Maureen.
Sorry, Maureen, I just had a hard time hearing you there.
Yeah, Gary, can you turn off your mic, please?
Yeah.
So question was, has there been any consideration of using the engagement tool that was trialed during the heritage consultation?
I am not familiar with that conversation to be using that, but that's something that I could discuss with Sophie yeah, we could talk about that tomorrow.
That would be great. It would bring a greater degree of interactivity into the discussion with members of the community.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can't hear you, Gary.
Still can't hear you.
Gary, you're muted.
You're muted, Gary.
Try us now.
No, he's still muted.
There you are.
Okay, I'm on. So I'll just read the recommendation, which is the council received the presentation from the manager of Recreation and Community Services regarding the community center project for information. I'll move that.
Second.
Second. Thank you, Sue Ellen. Okay, and all in favor? Aye.
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 Great. And just before you leave, Shauna, everybody's aware that you're on your way. This may quite possibly be your last council meeting on Bowen Island. And I just want to send out a real big thank you for all the work you've done. Not only the rec, 13 years in rec department and community services. Sorry, I knew you weren't going to like that. And you just you inspire everybody around you. Your energy, everything. The community center, I've been working with you for 6 years now in this community center thing, and it's been absolutely fabulous. I can't tell you how much work that this lady has put through the community center project and stuff like that. Just diligent work, incredible dedication to the project. And because of that, we're going to move forward. We're going to have a successful referendum, and we're going to build a place on Bowen that is just going to be so welcoming and so Bowen Island that everybody's going to enjoy it. So hopefully we get to see you again, Shauna. And if
Certainly.
not, all the best in the future.
Thank you, Gary. You'll have to invite you have to invite me to the grand opening.
Oh, don't you worry, you'll be there.
Okay.
And thank you, Sam.
Take care.
You bet. Bye-bye for
Thank
now.
you. Bye-bye.
Hi, Shauna.
Okay, so move on to 7.3, which is the annual report, and Hope, you're going to be looking at that for us.
Sorry, we're just going to go back one step to 7.2. I just have a short report regarding the community center referendum contractor service.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yep, 7.2. Thank you, Hope.
Appointment of the chief election officer. So just a short report, and I apologize for the lateness of it. I always seem to get everyone else's staff reports on the agenda, but not mine. So the purpose of the report is to seek council authorization to engage a contractor to provide services for the preparation and execution of the referendum that's scheduled for September 2020. So the Local Government Act requires the municipality to appoint a chief election officer and a deputy chief election officer for the purposes of conducting an election or other assent voting process. And that's in section 42 of the Local Government Act. So the referendum contractor that we had in mind was, his name is Mark Brown, and I worked with him during the 2018 election. He was the chief election officer for West Vancouver, and he's very experienced and is available to work within our tight timeline. So he is ready to go as soon as we appoint him as Chief Election Officer. So I'm just requesting that council waive the Bonny Municipality Purchasing Policy number 0205 and that authorizes staff to engage ground to provide contractor services for the preparation and execution of the September 12th, 2020 referendum to be funded from the community center project budget, and that council appoint Mark Brown as Chief Election Officer and Hope Dallas as Deputy Chief Election Officer for the September 12th referendum.
All right, questions. I got Sue Ellen, I see there. Okay, well, Maureen was first. Sorry, Sue. Maureen?
Just a question concerning funding his services. Obviously, we need someone, but don't we have to have some indication of the cost in the recommendation?
So we can certainly do that. He works on an hourly basis, and the number of hours required is not 100% clear at this time, because we have a division of duties where he'll be the Chief Election Officer doing the more legislative requirements and coordinating sort of the admin staff. So myself will be the Deputy Chief Election Officer, and then our Sophie and Janet, our two admin staff, will be providing support as well. So we're trying to share the duties so that we can reduce the cost. So doing some of it in-house, but he'll be coordinating it. So at this time, we have a $10,000 budget allocated for the referendum, and then anything above that will be funded from the community center project budget.
Yeah, that's right.
I would feel more comfortable with at least a ballpark figure.
Yeah, it'll be in the range of about $20,000.
Okay, that's fine. That helps me.
Yeah, and just to echo what Hope had said is we already have 15,000 identified in the project budget for.
Sorry, 15,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam.
All right, can we put that in the recommendation, Hope, when it goes in there, the 15? I think that's what you wanted, isn't Maureen?
I think it should go to 20, but we already have 15. But anything that might go over would still be attributed back to the project budget.
Correct.
So it's not new.
Yeah.
I'm happy to include that in the recommendation up to
20.
Up to 20.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Allison?
Maureen asked the question I was going to ask, and sorry I didn't ask that today, Hope. And so I'm happy with putting in up to $20,000 in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Sue Ellen?
I was just going to move the motion.
Okay, go ahead. But
I move the motion that Hope just read out, unless you'd like me to read it all again, as amended.
Okay, that sounds fair to me. Is everybody happy with that?
Well, maybe we should just ask Hope to read the actual motion.
Yeah, so I can just, that council waive Bonny Municipality Purchasing Policy number 0205 and authorize staff to engage Mark Brown to provide contractor services for the preparation and execution of the September 12th, 2020 referendum to be funded from the community center budget up to $20,000. And that council.
Thank you, Hope.
No, you got to put the up to 20,000 before the to be funded. Because the way, if you put it afterwards, it implies that the community center is going to pop up 20,000, but it could be more.
Great, up to 20,000 to be funded from the community center budget.
Okay, Sue Ellen, I still see your hand up here. Is that?
And can we do them together? And that council appoint Mark Brown as Chief Election Officer and Hope Dallas as Deputy Chief Election Officer for the September 12th, 2020 referendum.
Okay, I'll second
that. Somebody's dog is unhappy.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to 7.3, which is 2019 annual report. Hope.
Okay, here I am again. So each year we're required to prepare an annual report for consideration by the public and council, and that's in accordance with section 99 of the community charter. And we are required to make the report available for the public inspection by June 30th of each year. And as a result of COVID-19, the deadline was extended from June 30th to August 31st. And so we have made the report available as of Monday, July 13th for public inspection, and notice of the report was included in 2 issues of the undercurrent, as well as put on our municipal website, and a hard copy available at Municipal Hall. At the time of writing the report and up until this meeting, I have not received any public comment, but at this time, we would welcome anyone who's on the meeting to provide comment. Otherwise, the report will be finalized and it'll be kept on the website, as well as we'll have copies available at Municipal Hall. And at this time, the recommendation is that Council approve the 2019 annual report as presented at the July 2020 regular Council meeting.
Thank you, Hope. Any discussion?
I'll just add that typically the report is a little bit more robust in terms of department descriptions and highlights, but just this year, due to COVID and staff resources, we just pared it down a little bit. So it is a little bit lighter than it normally is, but we have included all of the requirements that are prescribed in the community charter. So we've met.
That's the important part. Yeah, thank you. So I'll move that recommendation. Do I have a second?
Sure, second.
Okay, thanks, David. And all in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Now we'll move on to the good stuff. 7.4 BC Used Oil Collection Program Report. Bonny Brokenshire, Manager of Environment and Parks Planning. Bonny, over to you.
Great. I'll just share my screen here.
Sure.
Great. So good evening, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this presentation is to supply Council with information about the BC Used Oil Management Association Used Oil Collection Program. A bit of background. Following a presentation from Will Burrows, he's the Director of Consumer Collection and Sustainability for the BC Used Oil Management Association, and he's joining us here tonight. He's on this Zoom. Following his presentation at ECAC on March 4th, 2020, a recommendation came forward to Council at the April 27th, 2020 meeting, where resolution number 2231 was adopted. This resolution directed staff to explore the feasibility of establishing a community collection program for used oil with the British Columbia Used Oil Management Association. And a little bit about the association is it is a not-for-profit society formed under the British Columbia Society Act in 2003. Its role is to ensure the responsible management of oil, filters, antifreeze, and containers. I've included a complete list of the products that the program does accept as part of your Council agenda. It's an attachment to the report in your package. There's over 270 used oil collections. There's a typo in the report. They're scattered throughout British Columbia. And feedback that staff received, we consulted a couple facilities on Vancouver Island and on Gabriola Island, and the feedback was favorable. The program has benefited those communities. Also, we've had discussions with Bowen Waste Solutions and Bowen Island residents, and also some relevant Bowen Island businesses. And all the folks that we talked to are supportive of the program.
Good.
So the benefits of the used collection program have been really well demonstrated throughout the program. It's a well-established program. It allows individuals and businesses to contribute to an established recycle program that ultimately ensures petroleum-based lubricants and other substances are recycled, and the packaging is also repurposed and recycled. This initiative is congruent with goals outlined in Bowen's Community Energy and Emissions Plan and also our recently adopted Climate Action Strategy. So the equipment, it's really quite slick. The most suitable collection unit is similar to the photo in the left-hand corner of this slide. And it's about, the one that we'd be using actually would be a little bit smaller than this. It's about 8 feet high and it's seven feet wide. I mean, I'm sorry, I talk in feet still. 7 feet wide, 6.5 feet long, and yeah, the height 8 feet high. And it comes with some drum funnels and a 284-liter welded metal spill tray, and it's lockable as well. The most suitable location, which is supported by Bowen Waste Solutions, and Louise McIntosh is here tonight on the Zoom call as well, is about 30 meters northeast of the Knick Knack Nook. And I provided just a photo. It would take up the parking spot that's shown in the middle photo on this slide. And there is some availability if we have to scale up over time too. There's a little bit of extra space there. So the expected volumes, Carla and I conducted quite a bit of research and trying to figure out what we'd be looking at for volumes. And we figured that there'd be about 1 to 2 barrels of oil, petroleum-based lubricants per month, and 1 barrel of antifreeze for every 2 months, over every 2 months, 1 to 2 bags of oil containers per month, and 1 barrel of oil filters, about that equivalent, maybe every two months. So that actually, you know, that volume could increase over time. So there is training available. The British Columbia Used Oil Management Association, they provide training and training materials, and BIM's Environment Department and also Bowen Waste Solutions staff would be trained, and pertinent education details and materials would be relayed to the public by way of on-site information events and BIM's communication dissemination network. The cost and acquisition of all the equipment and the collection of the recyclable lubricants, containers, antifreeze, and filters is all covered under the program. Which, this is the good news, is BIM receives 30 cents per liter, and that's paid out twice annually, and that's for all of the liquids, so the petroleum-based product as well as the antifreeze. And the money is intended to cover, you know, some staffing costs, although there won't be a lot of staffing, I believe, once the program is up and running and people are educated. And it also can cover educational materials and other miscellaneous costs. There's about $500 of machine costs to level the area where we hope that the CCAN can sit. And there's tons of burdock happily growing in that area. So that would be really I just wanted to talk just a little bit before bringing forward the recommendation, is that this program promotes environmental stewardship by providing a collection facility for products and materials, which might otherwise be dumped on the ground or cause sources of, or dumped in a creek or whatever, so could cause sources of pollution otherwise. And by providing a collection facility, individual trips to an off-island depot may be decreased, thus improving the our community's carbon footprint. So the recommendation before council tonight is that council approve taking part in the BC Used Oil program by installing a collection unit contained within a CCAN at the Bowen Island Recycle Depot site, and that council direct staff to promote the use of the facility with Bowen Island residents and businesses. Sorry. And that's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Bonnie. It sounds like a win-win to me. I'll move that recommendation. And anybody have anything to add here? I've got David.
Okay, Gary, I was just going to move the recommendation. You did it for me. Thanks.
Okay, no worries. Allison?
So just a couple of questions. I'm not quite understanding staff training. So I'm just going to take a half-used container of I don't know, oil for car, or chainsaw oil or something like that. Do I just dump it into the barrel, or do I leave it there for somebody else to dump it in? I mean, what's the staff costs involved?
Well, there may be initially, I think when we start out, I envision that environment staff and maybe some bone waste staff, depending on their availability, would be there. And we'd sort of advertise some times and days that people could come by and we could talk about the different barrels. They're very well labeled. The containers are very well organized. But the training, so I'm talking to other jurisdictions that have the depots. Some of them, people, once the community members are educated, they run fairly well by themselves. There could be a sign in the C-can saying, any questions, unsure, staff is here to help. Louise is definitely a proponent of this program. And so there might be some staff time utilized to educate and also maybe to man at certain times or walk over with people, and definitely to open up the C-can in the morning and to close it up at night and to keep it clean and all that stuff.
And so you're anticipating that some of the businesses here that are automotive and stuff like that are going to be bringing their used oil down? Or
Yes. I've talked to Eddie, talked to one of our automotive, our new home-based business. Very interested in participating in the program.
Okay. And then I guess because the product stewardship legislation, my understanding was that if you sold it, you had to take the empty container back. So
maybe Will Burrows could answer that question. He's very knowledgeable about that end of things. If you're there, would you be able to answer that question for Councillor Morris?
Absolutely, Bonnie. Mayor, councillors, thanks very much for this opportunity.
Welcome.
The regulation used to be a return to retail program. So you're absolutely right, Councillor Morris. At one time, if you sold oil, you had to take it back as well.
Yeah.
And, that changed when the recycling regulation came into effect, and they took that requirement away. And when they made it into one of the stewardship programs under the recycling regulation, so it's no longer a requirement if you sell oil. So the stewardship program has established 270 collection sites around the province, and some of those are municipalities, some are car dealerships, and some are private depots like our bottle depot. And they partnered with us to provide the ability for consumers to take their oil back for recycling.
And then I guess my other question is, what happens if the contents of the barrel get contaminated? Something goes in there that isn't used oil.
Right. So as Bonnie spoke about earlier, the intent is that the program only covers used lubricating oil. So we don't want people putting water in there or putting in cooking oil or something like that, because that's not part of the program. So that's where the training component that comes into it. I can tell you that in the 3 years I've been involved in the program, we haven't had an issue with contamination. And there are sites where the staff decant the oil themselves to make sure it is indeed the correct product. And there are other sites such as Kiosks Valley that I think Bonnie spoke to, where the consumers decant their own oil. But it has not been an issue in the past 3 years that I've been involved.
Okay.
That's great. All right. There's somebody else in there? Maureen.
Yeah, I just would like to thank Will for coming and making his presentation to Environment and Climate Action. It was very informative, and I'd like to thank Louise for making it possible to do this on the bird site. I think it's a valuable addition, and it's at no cost to the municipality.
Here.
Yeah.
All right.
Good for you. Sue Ellen, over to you. Hi,
Well,
Louise.
I wanted to second it if nobody has seconded it yet.
Go ahead.
But then I second the motion, and I'm just in support. I think that's fabulous. The questions have been answered. I'm happy to join a collaborative program that works with other communities for a cleaner environment. I think it's great.
Certainly is.
Gary, could I just ask Will something, since
Yes,
we have
absolutely.
the benefit
Go
of
ahead, Michael.
Well, this is a great program. This is a great program. Do you think we might reach a time when something as straightforward and well organized as this might be extended to paints and varnishes and other items such as that?
Absolutely. There are programs at the moment. So the Product Care Association are another stewardship agency, and they accept paints, household hazardous wastes, electronic fluorescent lights, and that sort of thing. So you could certainly speak to them, and they may be interested in setting up a collection opportunity as well on Bowen. Part of the reason that Bukoma decided to start speaking with Bowen Island, we had a study performed by MNP back in 2018, and that highlighted that Bowen Island was a community where there was a need for this service, and there was sufficient businesses and residents to warrant us investigating it further.
Terrific. Is that it, Michael?
That is it indeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And thank you, Will. Any further discussion?
Any questions? Any questions for me?
Nope. Where are you sitting right now?
On your deck, I bet.
You are on your deck.
on the deck,
Yeah, you are.
I just wanted to answer Michael's question as far as expanding to paints, varnishes, and one of the reasons we haven't done that in the past to date is that there are certain requirements of secure yards in all for us to participate in the program on a day-to-day basis. So at this point, we've just been doing the drop-in twice a year for the service until at such time the depot meets all the requirements of the product care contracts. It can be done, but we just got a new roof on, and now we need a few more fences.
Thanks,
There you
Louise.
go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Get Michael a hammer.
Okay, we got
Good
somebody to
stuff.
move that last recommendation, didn't we, Hope?
Yeah, you moved it, Gary.
Oh, did I? Oh, really? Gosh, that's sad, eh? Okay, so I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and thank you again.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're going to move on to 7.5. We have decided that it's going to be deferred until September 14th. So we're going to move on to
Do we need to
reports of
move
committee.
that as a recommendation?
Sorry?
Oh.
Sorry, there was a motion to defer to go with that.
So I move
Okay.
that council defer the site alteration bylaw and hazardous areas DP area work plan report to its September 14th, 2020 regular council meeting.
Second that. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, it's officially deferred now. Okay, so we'll move on to 9.1, which is a recommendation released from the July 6, 2020 closed Eagle Cliff Water System Local Advisory Committee meeting. So that's over to Patrick, Director of Engineering, and Raj Hare, Chief Financial Officer. I don't know who's got it.
Sorry, both of those staff members are not
Okay.
here. So
Oh,
perhaps
okay.
Would you like me to speak to this?
Yes,
As the
Allison.
council.
Councilor Morse is the council
Oh.
member on that, council liaison on the.
Okay, so basically the financial plan budget for the Eagle Cliff Water System does provide for some money being used has a provision for money coming out of the reserve fund for capital related items, planning for Eagle Cliff water system. So all this recommendation is Eagle Cliff water system is agreeing with that we should proceed with the planning and the installation of the 2 water tanks. So there is no action required on council's behalf here. It's just an information item indicating that Eagle Cliff is supportive of the process. And the second recommendation that came from Eagle Cliff was that they wanted staff to apply for the infrastructure planning grant, and council already directed staff to put that application in, and my understanding it has gone in. So I don't think there's any action required on either of these, just to receive receive them for information, which I will move.
Okay, I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
gonna move right on then. Back to new business. Yeah, Maureen, go ahead.
Allison, again, it's a cost item. Do we know how much these water?
$9,500.
I'm sorry?
Tanks were about $9,500.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's more than that in the financial plan to come approved to be spent out of the reserve fund. So
okay, thank you very much.
We'll have to come back at some point with another resolution to spend more money out of the reserve fund.
Okay, we're gonna move down to 10.1, which is Metro Vancouver Director David Hawking. Update to council, please. Metro Vancouver.
Thank you, Gary. 2 things from the Climate Action Committee. One was that Metro Vancouver achieved carbon neutrality as an organization in 2019 by reducing their carbon footprint, but largely by offsetting it through credits involved with the ecological restoration of Burns Bog. So that's sort of a good news story. And
wow.
But the other thing that could be interesting for Bowen is they're about to undertake consultation on expanding the regulation for non-road diesels. So non-road diesel, that means big excavators and pumps and generators and bulldozers, that kind of equipment. And those are actually the #1 source of the small particles from diesels that are very harmful to health. And they're also number 3 in the source of oxides of nitrogen. So the way that it's been regulated in the past is that these machines have 4 tiers, tier 0, which is basically old machines that have no emission controls whatsoever, and up to tier 4, which are really modern machines. And the regulations so far have been encouraging people through fees and then refund of fees if they ditch their tier 0 machines and move up to tier 1. They're now moving to tier 3 and tier 4. So that would be new, those would be new requirements for some of the Bowen Island operators, I would imagine. So there will be advertising through appropriate newsletters and on this and webinars to get the information from municipalities, but also from owners and operators. So presumably we should be hearing more about that as it comes out, but it's worth being aware that that will come, because probably we'll be hearing about it from some of our operators.
Wow. All right, thanks, David.
Okay, that's it from Metro, I think.
Okay, Island Trust Municipal Trustees, Fast and Kale update on Council Island Trust business.
Great, thank you. I have the item that was down in your agenda as
12.12a. What was it?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. And the info item, and Hope has a couple of slides, but I just wanted to, well, if she can find them, I just wanted to give you a little update on this policy statement review process that the Islands Trust is involved with, because it's like the OCP for all the island OCPs, including us. And I'm not seeing the slides here, but you might remember back in September, middle of September, there was a public open house at the library at the Cove Commons. And there were all these different panels, and Islands Trust staff were there asking people what they saw for the future. So it's kind of a renewal of the policy statement. It's a survey, really, a public engagement process. So if you can go to the next slide, here's what we heard. And this is part of a multi-year process, and there's lots of analysis still to do, but there you can see the number of participants from Bowen Island Municipality up there. 126 on the ferry and 42 online. Next slide. And down at the bottom there, connection to nature, the BI tells you that that's what most Bowen Islanders, this is the most popular theme in terms of what do you value about the trust area. For Bowen Islanders, it was connection to nature. And if you go to the next slide, and there you can see some of the top themes. That one, connection to nature, had 207 total comments, and you can sort of see the range there starting to head down. These are just a few pages from the report to give you a taste of what's in it. Next slide. This one is when we asked about, in the context of climate change, what concerns do you have for the next 30 years? There you can see the Bowen Island star as up in ecosystem protection with the frog. This is what people were mostly concerned with when they think about the future and climate change on Bowen. Next slide. And then this one was opportunities. What opportunities do you see to protect and preserve the trust area? And I don't have Bowen particular numbers for this, but they were, these are just a range of the kinds of answers people were seeing as opportunities, which is interesting. Next slide. And I just wanted to show this at the end, just so you can see the policy statement. That big piece at the top is what we're engaging with the public in. We're checking in with them about it. We're making sure it's fit for the future. And then that on Bowen, like all the other islands, affects our official community plan. The policy statement tends to be in the vision or the, what are they called? Vital concepts or something at the beginning of our official community plan. And then the official community plan affects the land use bylaws, and the land use bylaws affects what actually happens on the land and the state of the ecosystems. So I just wanted to give you a little update that that's in the works, and that's what's down there in your information reports, and that this is a multi-use project. So we can ask Islands Trust staff if we want to hear more about this, but otherwise stay tuned. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Sue Ellen. Anything from you, Michael?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I won't comment. I think I'll defer most of my comments till I think August is going to be a month where maybe working on some stuff. And then in September, we will have our September trustees meeting. So I'll certainly be reporting back to the to council on issues prior to that trustees meeting. Also, and you probably realize that around the island, we've got a lot of people here collecting money for various good causes, which we all know. They're out there talking to their friends, vote for this. Can you help us with this great cause? Can you help us with the other? And you can anticipate that I'm fielding calls as well saying, hey, Michael, we're raising money, shall we say, for the community center, for the health center. And now we're sending 300,000 off island to Islands Trust, to which I reply, that's true. And we'll just have to get on with it, and we'll see you in September. But, you know, there is that issue out there because we've got a lot of people competing for money right now. And always at this time, after the requisition goes out and the statements and the tax rolls go out, these questions come up. So I am fielding those at the moment, but more to follow in September. So it's a case of watch this spot, I think.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. And we're going to move on to Councillor Nicholson, update to Council Metro Vancouver Regional Parks Committee.
Thanks, Gary.
No problem.
Participated in our annual parks tour, which is the highlight of the year. We get in a big bus and we go to a couple of park sites where some new projects have been launched or are in the planning stages. So we had a COVID version of the park tour this year. Well, half of us got into cars, the other half got into a bus, a really big bus, and wore masks. And we went out to Colony Farm, and the Metro Parks has just opened the, it's called the Sheep Paddocks Trail. It's a big restoration project, around about $4 million for about 1.5 kilometers in length. They had to rebuild wetlands as they were proceeding with the project. Then we went over to Belcarra Regional Park, which is faced with massive attendance at the moment. They ordinarily have something like 700,000 a year, and they have pretty much exceeded that already. So they're dealing with parking management issues in Belcarra. They're also going to be expanding or incorporating into the park an area called Admiralty Point, and it's a very significant piece of land that until recently has been crisscrossed by ATV trails, and it's a licensed group. They have given the group notice and will be using the trails for hikers and walkers going forward. We had a meeting as well on July the 15th, and as part of that meeting, it was the presentation of an update on their greenways plan, which Bowen Island is a part of, and it's in the agenda for July 15th. It's worth looking at, and I'll make sure that copies get to Bonny and to Emma. Also in that agenda is something called the State of the Assets Report on Buildings. Metro Parks has been doing an inventory of all of the buildings in the park system. There are over 333, so a lot of buildings. And in Crippen Park, there are 21 structures that are considered buildings. So we're going to be getting more information on those buildings over the next, probably the next year or so, with an assessment of their integrity. There are quite a few that are in critical condition at the moment. We have some in the Davies Orchard, but there are many in other regional parks as well. And then the last thing, and this relates a bit to something that David mentioned, we're looking at organizing a couple of climate conversations related to the Climate 2050 initiative of Metro Vancouver. So one we're hoping will be on the nature and ecosystems discussion paper, and another on transportation. Bonnie's taking the lead on sort of the logistics of getting those conversations together, and we'll make sure that the community is invited to participate via Zoom. That's my update.
Thank you very much, Maureen. That's good. Okay, and Alison Morris, update to council on TransLink's mayor council meetings.
Oh, I'm not muted. The meeting is not happening until Thursday,
Okay.
and but one of the items that's on the agenda is a report on improving the flow of the buses in the congested areas so that they don't get hung up on traffic and that sort of thing. So that'll be an interesting report. And then you've all seen the press release from the province and the feds where they have committed to sort of funding for transportation in municipalities, but don't have a lot of details other than it's a good sign that they've recognized the importance of transportation. So that I can't really provide any more information other than that on that. So stay tuned.
Okay, well, thank you, Alison. And okay, then we're going to go down to section 11, which is items removed from the consent agenda. And we have 3.4, and that was David's, followed up with Michael. David, you want to go ahead on that?
Sure, thanks, Gary. And first of all, I should apologize for bringing up something around this bylaw at the late stage in the bylaw. As everybody knows, I guess I've been a member of BIMTAC for many years, and one of the important agendas or efforts of BIMTAC has been to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists on our roads by addressing excessive speed issues. So I was very pleased when Emma brought forward that bylaw a couple of months ago. Then when there were an array of changes, some council members brought up some concerns. Some of the information seemed incorrect. Remember, some of those changes were made. At that point, I guess I didn't spend enough attention looking at the details until this report was, until it was part of this agenda. One of the concerns that I have is when roads become car roads and neighborhood roads where people use it for walking, for dog walking, for the kids walking along, they're going from house to house. And if the roads are narrow, if there aren't sidewalks or big shoulders, if there are corners or blind spots because of hills, it is simply not safe to be going at 40 kilometers an hour. So, looking at the map, there are a couple of areas where I feel that we're going too fast in neighborhoods, but one of them is certainly on Windjammer in Bluewater. Now, we got a whole lot of letters about that, and I have to take some blame. What I did was I contacted one family who live along Windjammer and asked them, have they seen this agenda? Do they have any concerns? And I guess they decided to move it to the neighborhood distribution list. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm prepared to support the bylaw, but I would like to see a change for that section along Windjammer. I would like to keep that at 30 kilometers an hour. For the reasons that I've said, and some of the letters are extremely good. We note that there are many municipalities across North America are actually doing their best to reduce speeds in neighborhoods for these exact reasons, for the safety of pedestrians. So I support this effort. We need to have a bylaw, obviously, but I would like to keep that road through Bluewater along Windjammer at 30K, please.
All right, discussion. Thanks, David. Michael, what were your comments just before we move along?
You're muted, Michael.
Somewhat similar to David's, just the thought that we were here sort of ready to pass this, and look, that's fine. But I'm not sure that we had got everybody's concerns fully encapsulated in this. So really, I won't repeat everything that David just said because he said it. But maybe that is one change. If we did make this one change and said, okay, let's go ahead and we'll make that one change. Just a question maybe to Emma. Do we have any more we should be taking into account before we pass this, so then we don't have to go back? I mean, are we is it important we pass it tonight, or are there other issues that need to be taken into consideration? And it's, we have a little bit more time to do this. So it's a simple question. Have we got all the changes we wish to consider incorporated in this bylaw, or are there more we need to look at before we pass this finally? That is just a question.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I think the proposed bylaw has been before council for quite some time now, several months at least. And the only additional change, if we are making some minor changes before adoption, is to also consider the portion of Bowen Bay Road as well as Cape Drive, where signage, existing signage does read 30 kilometers per hour. And was previously directed by council to 40. I would say, like, the intent of the bylaw was to capture existing speed limits. So if council is okay with that, I would strongly advise to keep the 30 kilometer per hour speed limit on those portions of the road.
Of Windjammer?
There was Windjammer, a portion of Bowen Bay Road in the proximity of the sharp bend at Bowen Bay, and the entirety of Cape Drive.
Well, Cape Drive is kind of like a super highway. I can't see any problem there. Okay, how does everybody feel about that?
You've got a bunch of blue hands up, Gary.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go to blue hands, sorry. Okay, blue hand starts with Rob.
Yeah, thanks. And very similar comments to David. At the last meeting, I asked about where did we change speed limits, because I I think I missed that as well as some other councillors did on where we did change speed limits. And I think if we're going to raise any speed limits, we need to have a conversation with the community about that. It can't be something that we just do here and then get this reaction back. So I'm definitely in favor of staying at the 30 kilometers. If there is a reason to up it, we need to have that conversation with the community. We can't just do it like this and not having done the legwork on that. And as I went out to Windjammer on the weekend, and there was a dog running across, there were some kids playing with a ball. So yeah, these roads they're shared. They're not car roads. They're sidewalks, they're bike paths, they're everything. Their kids rollerblading on them. So so I definitely would support keeping those 3 areas at 30 kilometers, unless we get demand to raise them, and then we go through a proper consultation process and all that.
We sort of did. Okay, Sue Ellen?
I don't think we did.
Thank you. Yeah, my comments are similar, and I agree with the great letters that people sent in, and I like the comment about before you raise the speed limit, you need to create the safe pedestrian infrastructure, and I agree with that. So my motion would be to amend the draft bylaw by adding Windjammer Road, Bowen Bay Road near the sharp corner at Bowen Bay Beach, and Cape Drive to Schedule C, which is the maximum speed 30 kilometers per hour. And then I would move the big motion.
Yeah.
So can we finish speaking to the discussion?
Yeah, okay, Maureen?
My question is about procedure. This is on table here for final adoption. Are we able to make this revision at this point or no?
Let's jump in there. And I was just looking up the community charter because I was wondering the same things. We haven't run into this recently, and my gut is telling me that we need to reread it at 3rd reading and then bring it back for adoption. It's very unusual to have 3rd reading and adoption, amending it and at 3rd read. We'd have to go back.
Amending it at 4th reading.
Yeah, that's right. So I would recommend bringing it back or amending it, rereading it a 3rd time, and bringing it for adoption in special meeting in August or in September.
So would we just defer what's on the table at the moment?
Yeah.
I would just amend it, or sorry, rescind 3rd reading and amend it, reread it a 3rd time.
And then we can do all that tonight?
Adopt another meeting, or we could just defer it to September if it's in no rush.
Can we, I had the process question, Maureen did. Can we amend and do a revised 3rd reading and a 4th reading all at the same time in September?
Oh, in September. We could read it a 3rd time and adopt it in September. No, you need one clear day. Sorry.
But we had other bylaws that we've given 3rd and 4th reading to at the same time in the recent weeks. So is that a special COVID related thing? Because they're not land use bylaws.
No.
That's right. That's right. So it's just for land use bylaws. You need one clear day. That's right. Thank you, Allison.
So we could defer it, get
Let's
new
take it
map,
tonight.
and then have the clean package on the 30th. And I wanted to speak to the Cape Drive issue. Cape Drive to me is very different from Windjammer in that Cape Drive is a full wide width road allowance with walking paths on the side. And it's a very different type of road. The little roads are all—
And there's no neighborhood.
And well, no, but there's no, but if people are walking or biking, there's trails on the side of the road there. And as I say, they're full width roads with center lines and everything else. And so they're very much like Gallon Point Drive, same idea. So I would leave Cape Drive at 40. I went out there today to look to make sure they were what I call real speed signs, not the yellow ones with the curves, which is what I had thought was out there before, was just the yellow caution slow 30 K. But I think at some point they got changed to the white ones. So I'm okay with giving the community's input with changing the little bit in Bowen Bay. And it actually isn't just a little bit in Bowen Bay. It will start at Bowen Bay and it'll go all the way to the end of Windjammer. Because once you put up a 30 sign, unless you put a 40 up after it, it's 30 from there on.
Yeah, that's right, Allison. And that's really what I meant to say. From the curve at the beach. To
Yeah.
Well, it's well before the curve. It's closer to Sarah Nicholson's house.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we all agree that we want to make a change to this. Should we just rescind third reading tonight and then move with the rest of it at the end of the month?
I think that sounds like the cleanest way to go.
I think so. Hope, can you put something together that will do that?
I'm just going to also flag that the August
27th
is getting rather full already.
Okay.
So,
well, you might have to move it till September, but all I'm saying is let's get part of it done now.
Well, you can rescind third reading and give it a new third reading all in the same meeting. Right?
I was hoping I could
just read what I have and we can go from there.
Okay.
So the council rescinds third reading of bylaw 517-2020 and direct staff to amend bylaw 517-2020, Bowen Island Municipality Traffic and Use of Streets bylaw 133-2005 to include Cape Drive and Bowen Bay at Bowen Bay Beach to Windjammer to be 30 kilometers and bring back bylaw 517 to the September 14th regular council meeting.
I thought we were going to leave Cape Drive out.
Oh, I missed that. Sorry.
Does it have?
I'm okay.
Does it have a Windjammer in there? Did you, or did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bowen Bay Road at Bowen Bay Beach to Windjammer.
To the end.
To the end of Windjammer.
To the end of Windjammer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
30 kilometers.
And I'm okay with taking Cape Drive out. I think Allison's points are correct. It's a good road. There's lots of room on either side, and there's no one living there right now.
And it's definitely,
and it's already got pedestrian paths.
Exactly.
yeah. All the above.
Yeah.
Okay, so does everybody understand that
I'll move that.
recommendation?
Yeah. I'll move that, Gary.
I'm going to move it then.
Okay, I'll second it.
Thank you, David. And any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yes, I'm in favor. But
Okay, thank you.
just one point. We better make sure we have all read this really carefully.
Yeah.
And that we're not going to torpedo Emma when she comes back with a third reading.
And that's why I started my comments with an apology, because it should have been done earlier.
Yeah.
That's true. It was an oversight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for that. And we'll move on. Temporary use permitted. No, wait a minute. No, that was 3.4. So everybody's happy with that. The other one was 3.8.
Yeah.
And
David told that.
I did that also. Now, I thought this was a nice report, an interesting report, and a lot of effort went into that. And it has an array of recommendations. And some of them we were already doing, such as the path, the multi-use path, the safe passing for cyclists and so on. But there are other recommendations that there's no plan to do. And I'm wondering how we address those recommendations, because some are for schools to do, some would be for the municipality. And one, for instance, is a recommendation that the 30K that goes by the school continue up the road to the children's center. And so that's on there. Now, I'm not saying we should do something about that tonight, but I'm asking the process, how do we do something about the recommendations that they made in this really quite interesting and well done report? Thank you.
yeah, you're here. Emma, are you still here?
Nope, she took off.
No, she's there.
Okay.
I'm still here. I
Okay,
muted
great.
myself,
Thanks,
sorry.
No worries. Did you hear the question?
What to do with the recommendations in the report?
Yeah, the ones that have to do with the municipality, not the ones that the school would recommend that take action, but rather ones that where we could take action.
Mm-hmm. I think at this point, I mean, a lot of, as you mentioned, David, a lot of those are already in the transportation plan and the parks plan. They should hopefully be taken care of. I think, and I don't know, maybe Hope or Liam might have a different suggestion here, but if some of those other recommendations that aren't addressed in already adopted plans, to ask this report be reviewed by the Transportation Advisory Committee for inclusion in future work plans.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Emma. I mean, I think it needs to go to someone, and why not go to the Transportation Advisory Committee to have a look at it and make a recommendation to council. Council can have a look at it and decide whether that's a good idea or not.
On a yearly basis, yeah.
So I would move that council.
I've got my hand up. Hang on, I got a question.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my question for the planner is, I'm looking at page 2 of the report, and it says extend 30-kilometer speed limit, 30-kilometer-per-hour speed limit from Bix School Zone to Carter Road.
Yeah.
And here we are with a bylaw in front of us that we've just postponed to the next meeting, where we're putting roads into 30-kilometer zone. Should we, or is it appropriate to add this into the pot at this time, because we're doing it already for those other roads? Could we? What do you think?
Could I speak to that? I was thinking that too, Sue Ellen, but I think actually it would be inappropriate. We haven't had any discussion around this. I think it's better if it goes back to BIMTech. BIMTech could have a look at it and bring that forward along with any other recommendations,
Okay.
as on an annual basis.
Thank you. I'm fine with that. I just wanted, since we had it in front of us, I was going, we need to ask the obvious question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Siobhan. I think that's point well taken, but I think that's going to be an issue that is going to come up again and again as we proceed through this. So we'll take it when it comes up again. Thank you. And so do we have that recommendation then for that?
Well, has Hope worked something out?
Oh, it's just receiving the.
For it to, yeah, so the council received for information the school travel planning report dated July 17th, 2020, and the council refer the report to the Transportation Advisory Committee for review, comment, and consideration of the report's recommendations for integration into future committee work plans.
Oh, that's a beauty.
That's great.
Okay, we got David and Rob moving and seconding. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
I did have a question on the report now that it's on the agenda. I found it very interesting, the number of cars that were driving kids to school when we have a school bus. So, but I guess when they asked the question of the kids, how do you get to school? There wasn't a follow-up question that said, are you on the school bus route? It seemed really interesting that only about 24% of the kids, took the school bus or less, and most of them took, way more of them took cars. But I'm wondering, does that mean that the school bus route needs to be extended?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
probably does, but who knows? That's not our deal.
Well, no, but if we're wanting to get the kids walking to the school bus and taking the school bus and having fewer cars on the street, or are they all dropped off because mom and dad are going on the 8:30 ferry and they drop the kids off on the way to the ferry? So it was.
Well, the pickup for my grandson, if he gets picked up out here, is 20 after 7 in the morning. That's a reason why he doesn't get on the bus very often when he was living here.
So it was just interesting that, in the school, there were so many taking the car, and then the COVID one, it got way different. And I'm assuming that's maybe because of the start of COVID and parents weren't wanting kids in the school bus, or, I don't know. I just found the stats kind of interesting.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go right down to
Gary,
question. Yes.
I can have a really quick response to Allison's comments.
Thank you.
When we were doing the engagement for the transportation plan, parents asking for the school bus to come to their house for a pickup was actually pretty common request. What I heard from the school district is that it changes so much every year. It's difficult to serve every single family. So it may change every year, Allison, as to who can or cannot get on the bus.
Okay, Allison?
Yeah.
All right. So question
I'd like to
period.
report.
Sorry, what was that, Sue Ellen?
Oh, just, I appreciated the report. I thought it was good. Thank
Oh,
you.
it's a great report. Question period is Bronwyn's not here. Anybody else have a question? In the public realm there's not too many of you. All right. Well, if I don't hear any questions, then this regular council meeting will be adjourned at this time. And we're going to go back into our closed meeting. So you want to take 5 minutes, everybody? We're a little ahead of schedule.
Yes, please.
Okay, 5 minutes. Let's just, let's say 8:25. Now, Hope, are we going to go back through? Are you there?
Use the closed council meeting link would be great.
The which one?
Leave this meeting and sign in to close.
That's right.
Okay.
Which one? The closed council meeting this time? Okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay, see you for now.